for your patience and giving me, allowing me to give instructions to our Spanish speakers. So thank you for that. And now I'm going to present my screen and share some just basic housekeeping, and then we will get started. All right, so thank you everybody for joining us today. We are here at As the Experts. In today's session, as you know, we are recording this session, so we want to make this available for folks that are not able to join us today. And it will be up on our YouTube channel, and bear with us. It usually takes us about 24 to 48 hours to post it. So bear with us. If you're looking for it tomorrow in the morning, you probably might not find it. And today we're going to have a conversation with Ali, who's going to talk about selective enrollment. Today we're going to be using the Q&A feature in Zoom. So if you have questions, you can put them on the Q&A, and we'll try our very best to get to as many as possible, but know that we only have an hour with you today, and some of you attending already provided some questions, so we're going to try to get through those first, and then the questions that are live when we're in the session. So again, be patient, please, and know that we might not be able to get through all your questions, but we'll try our very best to do so. And if you guys want to register for our newsletter to get our information, we'll put the link in the chat, and then you guys can get our emails with all the information for the upcoming sessions. And once again, welcome everybody to As the Experts. My name is Berenice Pan. I am the Senior Program Manager for FACE, Chicago Public Schools. And today we're going to be talking about selective enrollment. And we have Ali, who's going to be our presenter today. So Ali, if you can unmute and introduce yourself.
Of course. Thank you, Berenice. My name is Ali. I'm the Policy Program Manager in the Office of Access and Enrollment. I've been at Chicago Public Schools for 2 years. I'm really excited to be here, really been loving all the engagement I'm doing. So really looking forward to answering any of your questions. And just looking forward to talking about the selective enrollment policy, which is something that I manage as part of my job. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ali. And again, we're going to be using the Q&A. So you guys can post your questions there as we go through the presentation. And then I am going to share my screen again and put the presentation for tonight's session. So give me a minute and you guys will be able to see it.
Did we share the Spanish presentation as well? Do we want to put that in the chat or no?
We can if you want to put the presentation. Is it a PDF? If not, we can mail it to everybody, email it after the fact.
We can mail. I do have a PDF, but we can email it.
Perfect. Go ahead and let me know when you want me to advance.
Okay. So welcome everybody. Like I said, my name is Ali and I work in the Office of Access and Enrollment. I am very excited to be here and really thank you for giving your time to participate in this community engagement session. And so this conversation will be centered around our selective enrollment selection process. And actually, as we're going to talk a little bit about a different part of this policy that would involve a preschool to kindergarten priority. And that'll be later at the end. So you can go to the next slide. So on the agenda today, we're going to do a bit of opening and framing. So we're going to start with a video from CEO Martinez and Chief Chavarria of Teaching and Learning. And then we are going to talk through our recommended changes to the selective enrollment policy after reviewing it, and then propose changes to kindergarten enrollment. And then we will do some question and answer and then closing. And so you can go ahead. So we're going to start with this video first, and then I will recap after. I can't hear the video, Berenice. I don't know if anyone else.
You have to unmute first to hear the video.
Sorry about that, folks. Let's do it again.
Hello, I'm CPS CEO Pedro Martinez, and I'd like to welcome you to today's community engagement session on our district's proposed updates to the selective enrollment selection process. Our selective enrollment schools are designed to provide a rigorous curriculum for Chicago's high-achieving students. They are often our district's most sought-after schools and consistently rank among the top schools in the state and in the country. When we look at enrollment patterns at these schools, we see that communities with fewer resources are underrepresented. As your new CEO, I believe academic ability is distributed equally across our city and that access to our selective enrollment schools should be more equitable. Improving the selection process for our selective enrollment schools is a big step forward toward helping every student reach their potential, ensuring that every CPS student in every neighborhood receives a world-class education, and creating a more equitable district for all of our families.
There are 28 selective enrollment elementary schools, including 11 regional gifted centers, 7 classical schools, 7 academic centers, and 3 regional gifted centers specifically for English learners. There are 11 selective enrollment high schools. Selective enrollment students generally receive instruction at 1 to 2 grade levels higher than their current grade level. Students who want to attend the selective enrollment school must take an exam. Currently, 30% of entry-level seats at selective enrollment schools are allocated to the highest scoring students overall based on academic performance and exam scores. The remaining 70% of seats are split equally between 4 socioeconomic tiers. Students are ranked within their tier, starting with the highest scoring student and decreasing until all seats are filled. Tier 4 represents the most economically advantaged communities in Chicago, and Tier 1 represents the least economically advantaged. Tiers are based on factors such as median family income, the percentage of families that own homes, and the average level of education for adults in the community. Of the 30% of seats that are allocated, regardless of socioeconomic status, 85% of seats in selective enrollment elementary schools and 73% of seats in selective enrollment high schools have gone to students in tiers 3 and 4 who have access to more resources than students in tiers 1 and 2. Selective enrollment schools are also disproportionately white and Asian in a district that is predominantly Latinx and Black. With equity as a core value, our district feels strongly about adjusting this process.
We are seeking feedback from Chicago Public School students, parents, staff, and community members to inform our next steps. We would like now to engage you in a conversation on how we can ensure that access to our selective enrollment schools is fair and equitable for all students. While we believe that improving these policies are important, I do want to elevate the strength and quality of our neighborhood schools and our continued commitment to ensuring that all students have access to a high quality school option. In the near future, we'll be sharing our plans to continue to invest in more programming in our neighborhood high schools. Thank you again for joining us, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Perfect. You can go to the next slide.
Oops.
Great. So many of you may have seen this vision or this graphic before. It's our 5-year vision of equity. And as a part of this vision, we are going through policy review processes to make sure that we are moving all of our policies towards equity as well. So that is why we are revisiting this policy at this time, specifically the selective enrollment piece of the magnet and selective enrollment admissions policy. So you can go to the next slide. So something that I wanted to talk about today is framing what would be in scope for questions and what are out of scope for questions. So we are looking forward to hearing and answering community input and questions about our 2 recommendations that I'm going to present to you. Our selective enrollment selections impact on school community and citywide implications. But at this time, we are not going to talk about Go CPS and marketing. I know there's lots of thoughts about these, as are all of these topics, but they're not in the scope of the 2 specific policy recommendations that I'm going to be providing. We are also not going to be talking about academic criteria. So the high school admissions test, GPA, selective enrollment tests for the elementary level. So this is not going to be touched on tonight because that's not necessarily the process or the formula that we use to admit students. And we're also not going to be doing school specific conversations at this time. But you are more than welcome to reach out to oae@cps.edu, and we're going to put all of this information out. And we also have a microsite where you can share specific thoughts, and that will be put in the chat at some point at the end as well. And so you can go to the next slide, actually. Thank you. So I'm going to quickly review what the CEO and Chief Chavarria said in the video, which is that, and also to say, we are not going to talk about the tiers of what makes up the tiers at this time, just because that is not part of this, what we were reviewing. We're just talking about the selective enrollment admissions part. So our tiers are based on median family income, adult educational attainment, percentage of single family households, percentage of home ownership, percentage of the population that speaks a language other than English, and a school performance variable, which is based on standardized testing. All of this is listed in the actual policy. So if you want to go to policy.cps.edu and read it, you will be able to see these listed there. And so you can go to the next slide. So currently, as was shown in the video, at the entry level for selective enrollment schools, which is generally kindergarten for elementary, 7th grade for academic centers, and 9th grade for high schools. Some selective enrollment elementary schools start in 1st grade, but very few. So 30% of the seats are given to students who score the highest on the admissions criteria with no consideration of the tiers. And I'm going to show you a numerical breakdown on the next slide, so it might be easier to conceptualize, but these seats are for everyone in the district. Every single kid is fighting for these seats. And then we fill those seats from high score to low score. And once we fill that 30%, we then go to the remaining 70% split equally across the 4 tiers. So each tier will get the same amount of seats, and students are now competing against only students within their tier. And so students are ranked from highest to lowest with available seats in the tier. So you can go to the next slide. And so I actually got feedback on this, that 100 might be a little bit easier to conceptualize, even though I know we can't have 17.5 students. So just to think about it, if we have 100 students in a kindergarten, 7th grade or 9th grade class, 30 with our 30% rank, 30 of those seats would go to students who score the highest across the district, doesn't matter where they live. And as we saw in the video, the 30% rank, those 30 seats generally go to students, or 84% go to, for elementary, go to students in tiers 3 and 4. And for high school, it's about 73%. So of those 30, you can see a vast majority of them go to students in tiers 3 and 4. And so then within the 70 seats left, each tier would have 17.5. Again, like I said, you can't have 17.5 students, but 17.5 to each tier. So that is when you look at some of the selective enrollment schools, you can see like, okay, how do students in tiers 3 and 4 get more students? It's because this 30% rank has often, for many schools, gone to those students. So you can go to the next slide. And so at this moment, we have 2 recommended changes. And what's really important I want to reinforce here is that we are committed to keeping, at this time, to be keeping a selective process. And so both of these options, it's not like we're getting rid of selective enrollment schools. We are still considering the selectiveness, and we are going to still be ranking no matter which option we choose. I know a lot of people, or there's quite a few people who had some concerns about that, but we are maintaining their status as selective schools. We're just thinking about changing the formula about how students get admitted to these schools. And so our proposed option and over engagement that I've done on this policy, I've heard this is one of the highest recommended options, just to be completely transparent. Most people that I have engaged about this policy and this specific part of the policy are in favor of removing 30% rank. And so this option would eliminate 30% rank in total. And instead, each tier would get an equal amount of seats. So tier 1, 2, 3, and 4 will all get 25% of the available seats at the entry level. And students would still be ranked within their tiers. So now instead of that 30% rank where people are kind of duking it out across the district, now you are only competing against students who live in the same tier as you. And so this is option 1. So I just want to, this is our first option. So we're going to be presenting a second option, but you can go to the next slide. sometimes it's easier to conceptualize. Again, this would be much simpler to explain to families. A 30% rank, I have often, in the engagement that I've done, I have found that the selection process can be very confusing for families. And this would be, say, each tier gets the same amount no matter what. If this were an example with 100 kids, 25 students from tier 1, 2, 3, and 4 would get seats. And we would do the same process we have now, which is if there are not enough applicants in one tier, we redistribute, or eligible applicants in a tier, we redistribute those seats across the other tiers. So if there were not enough tier 3 applicants, for example, to a certain school, we would divide those remaining seats across tiers 1, 2, and 4. So you can go to the next slide. So our second option that we have is to keep that 30% rank that we have, but reweight the remaining seats so that tiers 1 and 2 receive a more equal split of 17.5%, which is what we have now. And so again, students would still be ranked within their tiers. And so the difference here is that we would still keep that 30% rank, and students would still be competing against everyone across the district, but then we would be providing, and this is just a potential example, this is not a commitment of, you know, what the district would or would not do. I actually don't know. So if this were an example, maybe 25% of remaining seats would go to tier 1, 20% to tier 2, 15 to tier 3, and 10% to tier 4. Again, this is just an example. So I'm not really sure how it would look. So you can go to the next slide. And so this, again, I got some feedback that is really hard to conceptualize. And so I took the average example from the video that we had where, you know, I think it said like 50-something% of, or almost 50% of seats of the 30% rank go to tier 4. And then I think it was, I mean, I could be able to do the math right here, but so I took that average pie chart, and you can, again, find that video on our microsite if you want to review it. So if we were to keep this the same way, where we have the 30% rank, this is based on the average across the district. There are many schools actually that have more tier 4 and tier 3 applicants than the average, and there are some that have fewer. So this is not like a one size fit all, whereas the other option is like, okay, 25% no matter what. But we would use the same formula across every school, no matter what their breakdown is, you know? So that's why it's hard to kind of put into numbers, but this is just a potential example. So if we did the 25% to tier 1, 20% to tier 2, 15% to tier 3, and 10% to tier 4, it would break down to be 25, 20, 15, and 10. And so you would end up with a few extra seats for students in tiers 1 and 2, but this is basing it off the average. So if we do have a school where there's actually fewer students from tiers 1 and 2 applied through the rank, we could see it's still benefiting tiers 3 and 4 in the long run, or it could be more beneficial to tiers 1 and 2, but we really have no idea. So this is for high school, and you can go to the next slide. Actually, based on the averages for elementary school, when we do the same exact formula, you will actually see that students in tiers 1 and tiers 4 would get the same amount of students. Tier 2 would get fewer students in tier 3. So at the elementary level, it's actually, although tier 1 would have this one extra compared to the average, you still see there's the same amount of students as tier 4. So it's a little bit more complicated way of saying like whether you want to keep this 30% rank or you don't. And so that's kind of what we have, the difference between the two. And so now you can go to the next slide. We can do Q&A around this part in particular, and then also if people want to put in the chat as well, or even we can put the microsite where you can vote, just which option you prefer, option 1 or 2. Again, these are the only 2 options available at this time that I'm presenting to you, and I'm really here to listen and engage and hear what you have to think about these 2 options. And that is, yeah, what we have at this time. So I don't know if we want to go to Q&A now, Berenice, if you want to read some questions out or any.
Yeah, so what we can do, Sarai, if you can put the microsite on the chat. And then what I will ask is people, if you haven't gone through the microsite, is to go there and kind of like overview what Ali just said and kind of give us your feedback on those two options that we have. We do have some questions. Let me go through a few of them if they are on what we touch bases on, and then we can go from there.
Sounds good.
So one of the questions is, when will the change take place?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, that was like the main thing that I didn't say. So we are looking at amending the policy now so that changes would not go into effect until the 23-24 school year. So when people apply this fall, the changes will be for this next pool of applicants, their selection process. So not the kids who applied now, not the kids who are getting selected in round 1 or round 2 right now for either elementary or high school. So it would not take place until the 23-24 admissions process. Sorry,
So just to clarify, so if my kid is in 7th grade now, it would impact my 7th grader.
yes, exactly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify that for parents. Awesome.
Yep.
Let me see. So one of the questions, and I don't know if you had the answer for this, is how many kids apply for those seats in each tier in the highest ranked schools?
That is actually data that I don't. That's like our data team and our application team. I am just the presenter of these two options, so I don't have that information readily available, unfortunately, at this time.
Sure. No problem. And what we can do, folks, we'll try to put a Q&A document together and try to see if we can have some answers, and we'll put the link in the microsite so you guys will be able to view it. So thank you. One of the, and I don't know, again, this question, if you would know, is what about some of our students that have 504 plans or IEPs? Is there going to be a difference in the allocations or anything like that?
Yeah, so actually something important to know is that we set aside seats for students with IEPs, not 504s. So we do have a IEP, students with IEP selection process that actually mirrors exactly what we do. So we do have that 30% rank right now and then split evenly across the tiers. And this is for students, not cluster students, but students who have IEPs who are not cluster. And so their admissions process would mirror whatever changes we do as well. So if we get rid of the 30% rank, theirs would as well. And so that is just overall matching the same processes.
Yeah. And Sarai is going to put, a couple of people are like, where's the microsite? Sarai, if you can put the microsite on the chat. So you folks cannot utilize the chat, but we can put links so that you guys can click on those links. So we're going to do that now. So you guys can put your vote in that microsite. So one of the questions here are the questions about residency and how is that being checked? So depending on where they live, is there a process, do you know, for how we check if they live in, I'm assuming in the city or maybe in one of the tiers?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the school's responsibility, but don't quote me on that. Our office is not involved with residency checking.
Got it. So for a parent who put that, we will try to get you an answer in the Q&A, and then you can have like some facts so that you know the correct answer. We don't want to give you incorrect answers to the question. So thank you for that. But that's different.
Oh yeah, what I do know is that, I mean, you have to like present documents to the school that you enroll in. And so we do not get presented those documents. So I would imagine it is a school focused process.
For sure. And this might also be a question that we, particularly Ellie and I, might not have the answer to, but if a student gets accepted and then they move, so maybe they move to another tier, would that be something that affects them?
The policy states that once a student is like accepted and enrolls in a school, they are guaranteed that seat for the rest of their time in Chicago.
Got it. Thank you. All right. So hopefully that answers your question, Mom, who put that question there. So renting or buying property in a different tier. So I don't know if that's a comment or a question. So if you can clarify that a little bit more.
I think, well, that's just another thing that's like bigger than this policy, but I would really love to get questions specifically about like this 30% rank issue or, you know, because there's other things like that. That's maybe something that happens across the district that, again, I don't have children and I don't have anyone enrolled in the school, so I don't know. And that's like beyond policy related,
Right.
in my opinion.
So one of the things, and again, I don't think you spoke about this, but maybe parents I know want to know, is there any plans to expand options for or add selective enrollment programs to accommodate students who don't get into the selective enrollment programs as it is now in the system?
That would be another office as well.
Okay.
Like our gift, but you know, Morton is our newest school in Garfield Park that is now has selective enrollment programs. And so there are many seats, like selective enrollment seats dispersed across the city. So
Yeah, for sure. Okay, great. So one of the questions, and again, let me see. It says, does the percentage have to change between the tiers, or is there an option 3 to stay the same?
we are hoping to change this policy as it is. We're hoping to make it more equitable, so we are looking to change it. At this time, we are not considering. I don't think we're considering keeping it the same.
Perfect. Yeah, I think the other question for what you spoke about under option 2, what are the factors CPS is considering to allocate the 70% among the four tiers? Understood that this is still under consideration, but want to assess the reasoning driving the allocation.
Yeah, to be honest, I am not sure, since it's like such a hypothetical. It would probably be based on the average. I don't want to say something wrong, so I'm actually not going to say anything because I don't know. The answer is I don't know how. It would be like a data conversation based on probably maybe the number of students who get in from the 30% rank, you know, where they live in the city. But again, this is totally hypothetical and not a totally like thought out idea.
Right. Yeah. So just to clarify to parents, right? Like this is why we're here, to kind of brainstorm with you
Right.
guys and to get like your questions and then bring them back to the team and figure out like what you guys are thinking and what maybe
Right.
we missed or didn't miss, what we should be thinking about. But I think one of the clear things that Ali talked in the presentation, right? Like the ranking is still there, right? So like kids still have to score to get into these schools, right? So it's the highest
Right.
score within those different tiers that we have right now. So wouldn't, you know, that wouldn't change. That will still remain the same.
And
Right.
just real quick, there was one question that someone asked, like in the sign in or like the sign up sheet. I don't know if they're on this call or not, but someone said, I heard there is some percentage of seats reserved for 8th graders in private schools, and this is not true. So based on what I showed you, this is all applicants from everywhere applying, go through the same process. So it's not like we don't hold seats we set aside seats for students with IEPs, but those are the only students we set aside seats for. We do not set aside seats for students from private schools or from out of district.
Perfect. No, thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, that was one of the questions that we had from some of the parents. We had the question about the IEP and 504, which you already answered. And then one of the other ones is, and I don't know that you can answer this either, but one of the questions that were submitted ahead of time, what steps is CPS taking to minimize bias in selective enrollment process?
Yeah, so one thing that we did this year was providing the selective enrollment test to all 8th graders in school. So reducing that barrier to entry of students having to go on weekends to take a test. But other than that, I can't really speak to, I mean, we use grades and test scores for students in grades applying to grades 5 through 9. So this is like blanketed for everybody. Other than that, I'm sure there are places with biases in the process. I haven't gone through it. And so I don't know if there's any other potential plans besides like removing potentially removing the bias towards students in tiers 3 and 4 with the 30% rank, or reweighting, which I think would remove some of the bias that's in the system.
Yeah, no, and I think you're spot on, right? Where the district is looking at, like you said, test scores and all that good stuff, so that there's like a baseline where we're starting. So, through that, starting the process, to the person who wrote this question, I don't have the name. We're starting that process to continue, not starting, to continue that process that we're already trying to do to make sure that all of our kids have access to good schools across the district. All right, so I think some of them are comments, and we'll take your comments in. So Ali, I don't know if you wanted to continue with the presentation, and parents keep putting the questions and comments and we'll read them as we get them.
Perfect. Yeah, let's go. Leslie's on the call. Leslie, I don't know if you are ready to talk about the next part.
I am ready. Unfortunately, my camera is acting up and will not allow me to be seen, but I'm happy to talk. I'm happy to talk through the next couple of slides for early childhood. So my name is Leslie McKinley, and I'm with the Office of Early Childhood. I have the wonderful opportunity of being the Deputy Chief Officer for early childhood for the district. So happy to share with you a little bit about policy changes for pre-K as we are entering our final phase of universal pre-K expansion. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So currently in preschool, students do not have to attend their attendance boundaries. So historically, families have been able to select schools for preschool based off of what may have been near a caregiver's home or eventually near a place of work. And so we did not have, for the longest time, attendance boundaries or requirements or even enrollment policies for pre-K. And so as a result of that, we noticed that only about 68 of our pre-K students remain in the same school for kindergarten as they did for pre-K. And we really heard a lot from families, as well as from building administrators, as well as chiefs about, building this pipeline from pre-K to kindergarten, really valuing the continuity of care between families starting in pre-K as early as 3-year-old and staying within the same school up until their eighth grade. And so, these policy changes will really help not only build that continuity and that seamless transition between pre-K and K, but also for our dual language learners. We also heard that from principals, families start a dual language program in pre-K, and because they may not live in that same attendance boundary, they have to be uprooted and attend their neighborhood schools. So this particular policy will help with that pre-K transition, but it also help students who are entering into the dual language track at preschool begin to stay at that site for kindergarten and throughout to ensure that continuity of care and relationship, and also instruction, language instruction, which is also so important. So our proposed policy for PreK Priority, beginning in this fall, families will begin receiving priority points for their child to attend pre-K in their attendance area, which is huge. As we said, we know schools are the hub of community, and like I said, we've heard from principals that this is so important. So we're really happy that in the fall, we will be giving priority points for those students who want to attend their neighborhood school. We also, families who would choose to attend like a choice school, a magnet, or a open enrollment school, we are proposing a pre-K priority. So if you live within a certain mile radius away from the school, you'll get that pre-K priority. And also if you attend pre-K at that school, we're also requesting that you be prioritized for attendance at that magnet school. So pre-K priorities means that if you are attending pre-K, outside of the attendance area at that particular magnet school, that after we look at students in the attendance zone, that sibling preference would be next, and staff preference would be the next tier that would be looked at. And then after that, we will look at current pre-K students. So it's not an automatic guarantee. We do want to honor the systems that are already put in place for priority, but we do want to insert a way for pre-K students at those select schools to be that next group offered a seat. Families will still need to complete a GoCPS application to remain in kindergarten at that school that is outside of their neighborhood attendance area. So I want to make sure we stress that it's not an automatic process, but pre-K students will be factored into that prioritization process. And so this is what it will look like, a visual. So you'll see within our pre-K application process in the fall, actually it launches April 19th. So we're excited about that. So when the application launches April 19th for site selection in the fall, families will be able to make 5 choices. And that's a big jump. Currently, in our process now, families are only able to make 2 selections. So we're excited about the opportunity to give parents opportunities to select 5 schools for preschool enrollment. And priority points will be assigned just like you see here on the screen. So we're first going to look at our priority population. And so we will continue to prioritize families in temporary living situations. We will continue to prioritize those families who are below 100% FPL, and we will always continue to prioritize our students with IEPs, our diverse learners. And that is similar to our priority population now. Our funding requires us to ensure that the most at-risk families are served first in this process, and prioritization sequence will allow us to do just that. And the next tier of students that we will look at is siblings. We heard from families that a lot of choices regarding preschool is really based off of where their older children attend. And so we wanted to make sure that there was a process in line to honor siblings at the school. And so the next tier to be prioritized is siblings. And it's siblings who are in that school within K through 8. The next attendance area, next prioritization is attendance area. So we will be giving priority points for those applying to attend their attendance area school, which, you know, again, builds off of that continuity of, you know, starting school in pre-K. Grade 4 is the age of entry in the district, and then staying at that school up until 8th grade. So this will help to solidify, you know, and build up the community and neighborhood schools. And then the last priority area will be proximity. And that is those students who live within a 1.5-mile radius of the school or early learning center. We know that pre-K is not available in all elementary schools, so we really want to give that preference to not only elementary schools, but also to those early learning centers. If we go to the next slide, please. So this is what the proposed priority looks like, and this is exactly how it will be run. So we're proposing for magnet school priority that we look at siblings preference, and then we also look at school staff lottery, and then this is where the current pre-K students who are in that school for K, this is where they will be prioritized. And then we will look at lottery and then the citywide lottery. For magnet cluster, we're going to look at attendance area, siblings will be the second tier. Staff preference, which is allocated to 2 seats. So, I think when we had this conversation before, there was a misconception that there was just going to be an influx of staff, children being prioritized over pre-K, but that is only 2 seats. And then the current pre-K students who are currently enrolled in the school will be the next tier, and then the citywide general lottery. So as we mentioned, this is really helping to, again, strengthen the access to neighborhood schools. It's also building on that continuity of relationship and instruction that begins at pre-K. And as we are entering our final phase of universal pre-K, where grade at the age of entry will be 4 in the district, this helps solidifies and build that seamless transition from pre-K to kindergarten. So here's a time, Bernice, I turn it over to you if there are any questions regarding what we are considering for pre-KK for discussion.
All right, folks. So if you have any questions about the pre-K and what Chief Deputy just talked about, you guys can put that in the Q&A and we can try to answer as best as we can. And I'm going to give you folks a little bit of time to think of some questions. I know it's a lot of info coming up. I do want to go back to some of the questions that we got on the first section. And one of them talking about the data. I know somebody asked a question like, can we see the data of that 30%, right? The 30 top seats. So Ali, I don't know if you can talk a little bit about that data.
Yeah, of course. And thank you so much, Chief McKinley, for presenting. Again, the reason why we are presenting both of these together is that they are both in the Magna and Selective Enrollment Admissions Policy. So it's kind of, they would both be considered at the same time, which is why we're presenting them at the same time. So when you look at the data, and this is in the video, so in the microsite that we put in the chat, if you like pause it, you'll be able to see it. This is for last year. So this year's freshman students, last year's applicants, of the 30% rank for high school, 44% went to tier 4, 29% went to tier 3, which is 73% total. And then 18% went to tier 2, and then 9% went to tier 1. And for elementary school, it's a little bit even more skewed. Tier 4 of this 30% rank, 52% of those seats went to students in tier 4. 33% went to students in tier 3, which is about 85% total. 10% went to tier 2, and only 5% went to tier 1.
Thank you, Ali, for that. And if you guys need more time to kind of like look at that data, like Ali said, go to the microsite, you can click on the video and pause it so you can really see. I'm a visual learner, so I know it would be really good just to like see the yeah, to see like the actual formula that's up there and the graphic, right? So we can get a better view of that. The other question that we have, and I don't know if you would have an answer to this, is what started this process, or what was the thing that made us start thinking about a possible change in the policy?
Yeah, absolutely. I've done engagement around this policy for quite some time. It's like, that's one of the main parts of my job. And so when Dr. Jackson proposed this 5-year vision of equity and said all the policies need to be reviewed, the Office of Access and Enrollment manages this policy. And so because I am the policy person in access enrollment, I have been working on this. And Chief, when we got new leadership, there were talks about, what is something that people have consistently talked about? What are some changes that people are recommending? And to be honest, this has been the #1 recommendation and every single time I've done engagement on this policy, which is the high school admissions, specifically high school, but also for elementary, high school admission process needs to become more equitable. And so because we have Chief Martinez showed interest in this, and the board has also been pushing for more equitable policies as well. We found that it has been a perfect time to reassess how we look at selective enrollment admissions. And so I feel very fortunate to be doing these engagement sessions with everyone. I'm really excited to hear everyone's feedback. And so it's been a long time of looking at this data and saying, okay, what do people want? What are people asking for? And this is generally what people are asking for.
Thank you, Ali, for that. I think having that background information is helpful for us as parents. As folks, some of you have been coming to As the Experts for a long time. I have a munchkin who's not even a munchkin. He's a 7th grader. So this is going to impact my 7th grader. So I'm definitely really interested to see how this, I call him my munchkin. He's like, Mom, stop it. But, we're all parents. We're all on the same boat trying to figure out what's best for our kids. I really appreciate that background information so that we as parents know why these changes might be happening. One of the questions, Ellie, and I don't know if you have the answer to this, is do we know if any schools are losing their selective enrollment status?
There's one school only that is phasing out their gifted program, and that is Cooley, but there are no other schools at this time that are, again, from my knowledge, that would be losing their selective enrollment status. And that was those kind of decisions don't just happen, so a lot of community engagement, a lot of, leadership engagement. So yeah, but Cooley's program is being phased out, but there are newer programs like McPherson, Morton, Bronzeville is still filling up their school, I think, as well. And so grade by grade. So we are even though we are losing one program in the past, I think even two or 3 years, we've added 2. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we're definitely adding more programs in as many communities as we can, right? To make sure that our students, again, have access to high quality education, regardless of where they are in the city of Chicago. So thanks for that, Ali. The other questions, I see some of the comments that they have. If we can revisit, not the ranking, but the idea of testing, right? I want to make sure that parents are clear about this, right? The testing is not going to go away. Students still need to test to get into a selective enrollment. They still have to score a certain amount to get into a selective enrollment. So if you can walk us a little bit through that again, just so that parents understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, of course. So of course, students do have to be eligible to attend. And so maybe there are not enough eligible applicants to one certain tier, or maybe just people that didn't want to apply for, whatever school, right? And so students will still have to take a selective enrollment exam. So for elementary school, if you have a pre-K student, they take them at the same time, gifted and classical. Once you go 1st through 4th, admissions is solely based on either your gifted test or your classical test. 5th through 8th, is gifted or classical test and also GPA. And then high school is the high school admissions test and GPA. So last year we used the NWA, but the district's contract with NWA expired. So we no longer have the NWA as an option or as part of the admissions process. So now it is just one test and GPA, except if you're in grades K through 4, applying to K through 4, then it's just one test. And so we do have minimum eligibility for not anything besides, so the test score, right? So you have to get a certain test score to be considered for some of these schools. And so that wouldn't change based on us making these changes.
For sure. No, thank you for clarifying that, because I think that was a concern of a lot of folks who are putting comments like, is this changing? Is it lowering ranks, or what's happening? So I want to make sure that that's staying. That's right. That's not going to go anywhere as far as we know as of now. So we want to make sure that you guys know that you still have to test, you still have to rank in, right? Have that, whatever the score is, that cutoff score to get into one of these schools. So that is not something that is changing and the information that we're providing. So rest assured that that's not part of it as of what we're talking about today. The other thing, I don't know if you guys have any questions for the pre-K and kindergarten. I know we presented that information for folks who have really tiny kids who are coming into the district and have that information. I know every year, Deputy Chief, we make this push for people to put in their application and apply and rank their school. So if you have any questions how this might affect you or your family, please put it in the Q&A so we can take on the expertise from the Deputy Chief and answer as many questions as we can for that. Yeah, so we talked about the scores. So I think all of that is remaining the same. There's no change in scores or anything like that. So rest assured for those folks that are asking that question.
Yeah, and I put this in the chat, but also just wanted to be clear that this change for the kindergarten admissions process is only for choice schools. So that's magnet cluster, open enrollment, magnet with a boundary. I think that's it, but it would not apply to selective enrollment schools as we do not have any sort of like priority into those schools.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Yeah. So if you guys have tiny kids or, you know, somebody like this is information that they might have. Sarai, if I can ask you to put in the chat again, the microsite. So what we want to ask you folks is to really go on. I know some of you guys in the Q&A tell me which option you want, and we'll record that, but I will also ask that you go to the microsite and vote on it so that we have everything together in one place. We have the comments that you guys put on the Q&A and we'll share all those with the team. You also have that option in the microsite to leave more comments if you think of something after today's session. And I invite you to look at the video again to see that data. I know data is really important for a lot of us and we want to make sure that we understand it. So take some time to look at the video. And we also will have this, I think it's already up there. I think this presentation is already in the microsite. So you can take your time, look at it, look at the numbers. Like Ali says, some of them were examples, right? To kind of give you that visual so that you understand like what we were talking about. I know I get super confused when they're talking about like percentage and guys, 7th grade math is no joke. So I am like with you guys. I have to be that visual person who has to see the numbers and get those examples so that I understand. So I encourage everybody that's here today with us to go visit the site and give more feedback, vote on one of the options, give us your comments. So when the team comes together, we can take all of these things into consideration as we're planning to move forward. Okay, so I'm gonna keep looking here. I don't know about test results for, I don't think that we would have that info, but we will try to get it for you so we can put it in the Q&A, but not sure.
Test results for high school are coming out. Well, test results for high school have already come out.
Okay.
Test results for elementary school are released at the same time that offers are released. So that will be in the upcoming months. That date is to be announced at this time. But yeah, so selections, for example, for high school are coming out next Friday at 5 p.m., but elementary will be after that.
Yeah. Ali, one of the other questions, staying in that data field, is there data that we have and can share with people of any particular selective enrollment school where kids are coming from what tier? Is that something that folks can see?
I don't know.
Okay.
What I do know is that some of that data is identifiable. Students would be identifiable. So there are some reasons why that data can't be shared. So I don't think that is publicly.
Yeah, no, definitely want to protect our students' identity. So no, totally get that information. Yeah. So I think that the bigger picture that we can give you is, from the tiers and the 30%, so that obviously we protect our students' identity. So thank you for that question, parent who put it, and for the answer. Again, we're trying to, our priority is to protect our students so we can share some of that information. But thank you for asking. All right, I see a lot of comments. I'm not going to read all the comments, guys, because some of them are pretty long, but again, we'll take them to the team and they will be able to review them and read your comments. So thank you for everybody for posting that up there. I'm going to give a couple more minutes if you have one lasting questions. I know we're coming to the end of our time here today. And again, today was more to give you guys the big picture overview of what CPS is thinking, trying to do, get your feedback and really get your feeling onto some of the stuff that we're trying to do and really listen to. So we have all these comments, we're going to look at them. The team's going to go through them. Please go through the microsite and vote so that we can see where us as parents, are standing, I will go vote too. I haven't done it, but I will. So that we all have a say in some of the things that are changing. As we come
I
to,
can-
go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, I was like, I can just answer one quick question, which is about tiebreakers. So we do have tiebreaker for like if students have perfect scores, who gets in and who doesn't. On our website on Go CPS, I think it's under high school resources. We have a one pager about who is admitted in a tiebreaker. So
Perfect. So Karen, if you put that and you can't find the link, email me. Everybody should have my email me and I can try to send you the link so that you have that info. Awesome. And as we're closing our session today, Chief Deputy and Ali, is there any last piece of information or thoughts that you want our families to leave with today regarding the information we provided?
I think for me, it's just your voice matters. I hope you see that this engagement opportunity is a chance for you to really be involved in the process and really have your voice heard. And I think lastly, for pre-K, I hope that you see with the changes with pre-K, and as we're also thinking about transitioning into K, that you feel heard, because this is something that we've heard consecutively over the years of, building this seamless transition and building this continuity and really, figuring out ways to really support the neighborhood school. So I hope you see from what we've shared today that we are hearing you and taking your voice into consideration. And I just appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, to ask the hard questions and really start to push our thinking in a way that's beneficial, not only for you, but for your children.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Ali?
yeah, I definitely want to echo what Chief McKinley said. I feel very fortunate that we have leadership and a Board of Education that is encouraging engagement with families, community members, students, everyone, to make sure that their voices are heard in policy. I was a community organizer for 5 years. Like, I know how important it is for family or community voice to change policy. So I feel really lucky to be a part of managing part of that on the other end. And so I'm really thankful for everyone who was here, sharing your voice, sharing your questions. I have heard a lot of concerns on all ends of the spectrum for selective enrollment. And I just want to say that we are really looking forward to creating changes that will be moving our process to become more equitable. And I know it's a touchy subject. There's a few amount of schools, but we are also, as CEO Martinez says, we're working towards creating a quality school option, education option for all students in their neighborhood. And so this is an optional, selective enrollment is an optional program. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your voice. And when this goes up for public comment, you can feel free, although I do not know when at this time, you can check back on our policy website and for public comment as well, to share your voice after we make our recommended changes based on the community engagement that we've heard so far. So again, really thankful, happy to be here. And you can always email oae@cps.edu. And our team can get back to you if you have other concerns about selective enrollment.
Great, thank you, Ali, for that. And yes, to the last question, this session is being recorded, so we will put the video up on our YouTube channel. Give us at least 24 hours, guys, because this will, be in the cloud for a little bit, and then I have to download it, and then we have to upload it to YouTube. So bear with us; it will be up hopefully by end of Friday, so you guys can be able to see it and then share it with your community or other folks who were not able to make it today. Go to the microsite that has the video, that has the deck, and it has some other information. So that will be your place to go to really find all this information. And again, guys, we're all in the same boat. I have a 7th grader, so I'm with you. We're all trying to figure out where our munchkins are going to go for their freshman year. So I appreciate your time being here with us tonight. I appreciate all your comments and all your questions. Thank you for making us think right through all these things and making sure that we have your kids and your family at heart, right, when we're making these decisions. So I really appreciate everybody being here and letting us hear your voice and what you guys want to see as a district. But be assured that as a district, what we want to do is provide high quality education for all of our kids, regardless of where they are in the city. So we appreciate everybody that's here tonight. And with that, we're going to close. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your Thursday night and stay warm because it's a little cold outside. So thank you, everybody, and have a great night. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Berenice. Bye, everyone.